Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome back to the International GenAI Conclave. It is all about GenAI and rising Bharat. And to talk to us about this, put your hands together. A nice round, a warm welcome. We have with us Director of Research, IBM India, Mr. Amit Singhi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you had a good, sumptuous meal and are ready to reshare in the energy we have here today. So today we have a panel. We're going to talk about generative AI in rising Bharat. And we have some very distinguished panelists today. So it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Ankit Bose, head of NASSCOM AI. Welcome, Ankit. Mr. Ankur Puri, who's partner at McKinsey & Company. Ankur. And Mr. Hari Shankar, IPS, who is Superintendent of Cyber Operations at Kerala Police. Okay, so clearly there's a lot happening with AI and specifically with generative AI. And all morning we have seen the excitement that we feel both in the government sector and in enterprise. And our Honorable Chief Minister talked about some great use cases, talked about the responsibility we have as we build and deploy generative AI. So that was a great framing. Also at an India level, there's a lot of action. We are seeing startups coming up. Every other day, there's a small startup, a big startup, a lot of activity. We are seeing enterprises investing, building Indic LLMs. We are seeing the government across different states and also at the center starting to launch missions. There's an intent to launch the India AI mission with 10,000 crores of funding. So there's a lot of game-changing tailwinds that are coming in the country and at the state level across for the next, I'd say, several months to a year. So given all of this, we wanted to take some time today and talk to our experts here representing different parts of the ecosystem and hear from them how can we all participate, how are they thinking about all these changes and opportunities in generative AI in different sectors, and how can we all engage with that. So let me start with Hari. Hari, you're in cyber operations. You're very familiar with digital. You're very familiar with how to apply digital for actual good and operations. As we are having this AI revolution and generative AI in particular, how are you thinking about opportunities here, how, using it as part of cyber operations and beyond? How are you seeing it from the government sector?
The sea change from AI to Gen AI, we are looking at data analytics not only for the sake of analysis and clustering it. We are looking at how to generate or how to replenish the data itself. The key indicator that I feel in the government sector is to invest in human resource. So it was around 10 years back that we pulled out a few police personnel who had basic sense in programming. And we formed a small team, software team, and we trained them in full stack programming. We trained them in AI, and with the evolution. Today, the core application software that the police is dealing with, ICOPS that is called, it was fully envisaged, developed, and implemented in-house by the software division of 25 police personnel. So the way they have grown over the period of time, and the Kerala police is the only police that has developed this core application software in-house, starting from the FIR registration to investigation to the charge sheet. It offers a lot of AI solutions. The fuzzy search, the elastic search, the photo search, the biometric search, and a lot of other options are inbuilt. And all these libraries were developed by a group of 25 police personnel with basic programming skills. So similarly in the sector, in the government sector and the private college sector, once you identify the young brains and put them in the track, and they are pushed in the same track, they would evolve to a particular status where they will be able to reap the potential of the AI market. So the key factor is human resource development. And think in the lights of public benefit. See, today you have the smartphone revolution, and government knows that the AI or Gen AI is going to be the second wave of revolution. Now you have one smartphone that helps you to access the websites. It helps you to access the social media, helps you to access the fintech, and it also helps you in communication, data transfer. So in the smartphone, can you build a firewall for all the citizens in this country? That the moment I press on a link, I get a warning that you are going to a malicious link. The moment I get an email, I get an alert that you're getting an email from a suspicious account. The moment I do financial transfer to a suspect account, I get a warning that you're transferring money to a bogus account. So whether can you build the AI technology? You have the entire cybercrime database. You have the open source information. You have the AI ML models. So can you put all these together to firewall the common citizen from cyber financial frauds and other cyber security issues? And all these communication, be it communication, data transfer, browsing, social media, all these things are happening through a small chip called the SIM card. Can you use this technology to roll out a cyber-safe SIM card? The moment you put that SIM card in, you're safe. And it's not, I don't want a black and white solution, safe or unsafe. You can generate a trust score, a confidence score, maybe 0 to 100. The site that you're going to click is 100, scored 90 or scored 10. If Israel could do it, definitely we can do it. And our telecom sector is far more ahead than most of the countries in the world. So when you speak of AI from the government sector, we see it in two forks. One is developing key human resource and taking them forward so that we can reap the benefit of GenAI and the likes. And that would bring in innovation, that would bring in investment, that would bring in startups, and the society as on a whole would progress. Secondly, thinking in the level of public benefit. How could AI and the generative AI, capitalizing on the data that we have, capitalizing on the open source information that we have, build a foolproof firewall solution for the citizen offered in the form of something like a cyber safety SIM card? This is the vision with which actually the government and the police, cyber police is moving forward. The Honorable Chief Minister himself has rolled out a project called the Cyber Wall Project. That is a firewall for the citizen in the cyberspace. So that's the vision with which actually we are going forward, and we hope to bring out a prototype by the next year, possibly with the help of the academia and the technically competent professionals. We are moving in that direction.
That's such a great message, and two very good examples, policemen becoming programmers, right? That shows the potential demand that there is for everybody to skill up, because we often talk about how AI is going to take away jobs. This is an example of how the digital and AI enabled somebody to skill in new areas and grow more skills and make contribution. And the other one I think is really great. As an Indian, we have not been able to use data as a national treasure, but there's so much data of 1.5 billion people. And if that can be used back for the citizens' benefit, I think it's really, really great examples. Thank you for sharing that. So now we go to Ankur. So Ankur, you're from McKinsey. You get a really broad view of business and how a business is introspecting about this new world. How are they thinking about staying competitive? How are they thinking about their own organizations and people and staying relevant? How are they thinking about technology in the context of their business that is changing so much? Can you share a little bit your view on how is business in India gearing up, thinking about their role in all of this? How are they going to leverage it? And in particular, do you see anything special or different about the India market relative to what we all hear in the West? Right? So we'll appreciate your thoughts on this.
Yeah. Thank you. It was wonderful to hear about the work you are doing, very inspiring. India is amongst the world's sort of fastest adopting economies for this technology. And some of the recent work we did in just trying to understand adoption, it was very clear that India is really trying this, at least at the level of pilots today, which is great. when you think about where is a lot of the experimentation happening, and then you want to contrast it to where is it likely to go, I think a lot of the current experimentation is where the global limelight is more of, right? So these are things around content generation, for example, for marketing, software development, productivity in different types of assistants or co-pilots that exist for developers. There is obviously a lot of interesting developments happening on the call center side on how people are using the technology there. Um, Interestingly, and your two questions are connected in my view, um, India has a very different cost structure in businesses than the US or Europe or other Western economies have. And I would believe that things that focus on cost are not the ones that will scale as much here. Things that focus on, let's say, revenue side or growth side are the ones that are going to see a lot more traction. But I think India will also be the place where a lot of this innovation happens. Maybe one example is when you talk about GenAI for customer support in the West, it's seen as a cost idea which will shift more calls to the algorithms. Interestingly, in India, where actually the share of, for example, IVR is very high, where it's a voice-based system, no human on the other end, people are saying, should I actually use an engaging system like generative AI instead of that? Because that it gives me a better connect with my customer. I can understand the issues better. I can understand the needs better. I have a greater opportunity to engage with them. And I think that's a very different lens to the same technology. And it sort of is a theme that's much more in India right now. So I'm quite excited. I think there will be a lot of building. We are going through a phase um, of people trying things out, getting familiar with the technology, understanding how to manage risk, how to train your people to use the technology. But within 6 to 12 months, I expect a lot more focus on what are the most important business problems. These may be unique to India. For example, the fragmented trade and how do you use the technology in that space. And therefore, you'll see a new wave of things that will probably see a lot more adoption. So maybe I'll pause there.
Thanks, Ankur. And any thoughts, just as an add-on, around does the diversity and culture differences that we have in India around languages and so on, does that factor into the way businesses are thinking about use cases? Do you see, for example, we have 22 national languages, right? We have so much diversity in socioeconomic. Does that factor into what you're seeing, how businesses are thinking about it, let's say relative to some business in the US? Any thoughts on that?
So actually, I wasn't able to follow the question clearly.
Do you see the diversity of languages in
Yes,
India
okay,
and
clear.
culture being a factor in the way businesses are thinking about it?
For sure, but people are leaning forward. People are like, okay, if I've got systems that work for 3 languages, let's start with that. There is a conviction, at least in the people I've interacted with, that the rest of them will follow. It's a matter of time,
Yeah.
right? And similarly, a shift. I think there'll be a lot more excitement about voice-based systems in India going forward. Doesn't mean text will not be as interesting. It's just that voice will be a lot more interesting because in a way, this technology is very powerful in bridging that divide. So that someone who's, let's say, a farmer in a small town doesn't have to worry about the type of phone that person has and the ability to write effectively. And a conversational interface may become an unlock to access actually everybody in the country. So people are mindful of the fact that not everything is possible today, but I see a lot of optimism and leaning forward to say this problem will get solved.
That's great. Thanks, Ankur. I think your point about revenue being a bigger driver of adoption in India than cost is very interesting and probably worth startups thinking about it, right? So thanks for sharing that. Ankit, over to you. So Ankit, you get a very broad view of the tech sector in India, working with all the IT companies and technology-first businesses, and especially looking at AI as head of AI in NASSCOM. How are you seeing the technology sector gearing up for what's coming, right? The demand that's coming, the complexity that's coming, the responsibility that's coming. How are the big technology players thinking about it? How are the tech-first businesses thinking about it? And if you can also, in that, talk about how the tech, Gen AI builders, how can we engage that whole community to accelerate all of this?
Yeah. Just to check, how many of us can hear my voice clearly? Because there's some projection happening. Everyone can hear my voice clearly? Okay, good.
Okay.
So I will cover one part what you asked him, but again, let me answer my question first, right? Diversity I will cover last. So I see there are 5 parts to the whole value chain, right? The first part is the chip manufacturer in the whole GenAI game, right? Chip manufacturer and the hyperscaler. Second is the foundation model builders, right? Third is the people who are building the, the data ops, the model ops, LLM ops, all of that. Fourth is basically the ones who are building, the application wrappers on that using foundation models. Fifth is people who are building really responsible governance solutions which can be deployed. And sixth is policymaker, right? These are the 6 parts to the whole value chain. Now, where does India play in all of this, right? Let's see. We all are Indians, most of us here. So chip, we have no role. We are way behind, right? Again, to my point, we are way behind because building a fab takes a time. There are hardly any companies who are building that in India. But we have centers who are building chip from India or design from India, right? That's one. Hyperscalers or the cloud part, right? Again, the big cloud players take the game. But Indian hyperscalers, that is Yota, Reliance, Tata, E2E, they're building a capacity, right? Right now, within all of them, they will have at least a capacity of 30,000 GPUs existing, right? Which is going to grow soon, right? That's the first thing. Second is the foundation model. Again, in a recent survey, what we did, US had around 100 plus foundation models. China had around 76. India had 0, right? Countries like UAE has probably 1 or 2, Falcon V and few others, right? Many countries are trying, but again, I think India is very behind the race. There are 3 major projects, or 4 major projects I will call, which are going on. One is Bharat GPT in IITB, one is in IIT Madras, Sarvam, third is Ola, and there is a small work happening in IISc, right? Again, that's what the work what is happening. They're still behind, right? Why they're behind, we'll cover in later, but again, I think that's second. Third is the model ops, data ops. I think we don't have any solution in India. We all are using the global solutions. Fourth, the application wrapper. Here comes the companies who are building startups and who are building services around that, right? Again, here India score very high. Collectively, India will have around 200 plus or 225 plus GenAI startups in India, native GenAI startups, right? And if I may want to give you a breakup, 70 to 75% of them are building application wrappers, right? When I say application wrapper, they are using, GenAI closed or open source models, and they're building solutions which can solve particular issues in sectors, right? 25 to 30% want to build. Some of them are building, right? But again, I think they're way behind, right? They're trying. But we have solutions like B21, Socket Labs. These are very good startups. They have built, B21 is built in musical LLM, right? And they started 4 years, 5 years back. These are a bunch of musicians. They generated their own data. Now they wanted to use tech to, generate music, right? Now they are successful, right? Similarly, Socket Lab is building a full stack on that, right? Similarly, there are other startup stories who are doing that. Now the services part. I think services part, India is way ahead, right? Because India is the powerhouse of services to the globe, right? Anywhere you go, you'll find an Indian providing tech services or tech solutions, right? So there, I at least know 7 to 8 different services organizations. They have put 1 billion plus to develop products. When I say product, these are services products, MVPs, upskill, right? Solutions, all of that in this GenAI space, which is sectoral. Right? When I say 1 billion plus is a big amount, and I know 7, 8 companies who have put that, right? A smaller part is SME, tech SME. So India has around 12,000 tech SME, which support probably many percentage of GDP for India. Now they are the ones, if they are catalyzed with GenAI, they can really take the leap, right? Because they are probably 1, 2 million, 5 million sort of businesses who are doing big, product development, website development, all of that, right? Now, if they are supported with GenAI, they can do marvelous things. That's what is happening. The fifth piece was basically on data, right? I think India, I'll cover the diversity point, right, in data. India has 22 different dialects, right? And if you compare the size of digitized language, what we have is nothing. So Wikipedia itself is 1 trillion plus token, right? English, if you take all of that, 2 trillion plus token. And in English, Hindi is, I think, around 200 billion. The next is, I think, Bengali, which is around 110. And all other languages are not even few hundred, million token. That's nothing. So we have to understand one fact. Language, data, text is not just the words. It's our cultural aspect. If we don't train, the models which are getting developed with our cultural aspect, that will extend, right? So that's the fifth path. Sixth is the policy. Again, India has till now taken a stand that the policy which are there inherently in each sector will govern. But definitely government is very much on a front foot to encourage self-governance, right? They are encouraging companies to build self-governance protocols and come and probably nominate, help them think through. Because see, again, there are two, complete left, complete right, right? I'm not saying left and right politics, but again, left is the EU way. You build EU AI Act and govern everyone. The other side is basically very lenient, right? The US way. US is wanting to do something, but again, still they don't have even GDPR, right? Like we have our DPDP. So, but again, I think India is playing a middle path. We are giving guidance, guardrails, support, and we are helping self-governance. I think that's what is happening, right? These are the 6 main pillars in the ecosystem.
Awesome. That's a very good outlay of what's happening across the system and hopefully helps everybody identify where they fit in and how they can work across these layers. So thanks for sharing that, Ankit. We have a little bit of time, so I'll ask the bonus question, which is a common question for all of you, and we can start from Ankit and come back. And the question is really targeted for what is one piece of advice you will share to the generative AI builders or aspirant builders in the audience today on how they can get started, how they can stay relevant in this coming era?
Okay. So let me go first, probably. GenAI builders, I will say people who are learning GenAI AI, who want to build a startup. That's the persona I'm answering for, right? So I think you should start fast and be very agile to fail fast, right? If you're not doing that, then you will be stuck, right? Again, we run incubation for startups, right? We have 300 plus AI startups. Right now, the current cohort, we have 26 plus AI startups. You'll not believe, in this 26 GenAI startups who are in our cohort, at least 40% are below, in between 22 to 28 year, right? So these are just fresh college pass out. They've built some product, and they are doing fabulous, right? Fabulous. You will not even believe that they are equivalent to anyone in the Bay Area, right? So I think one thing I will suggest is please start fast and fail fast, right? The second thing in that category is always see tech is and means it's a tool, but you need a domain expert. I'll give a classic example. We have a drug discovery, GenAI product in our Centella, right? Now they are set of biologists, botanists, all of that. They've created a tool which is using GenAI to reduce drug discovery time from a year to probably few weeks, right? Because they knew the knowledge of the domain. They're bringing that, they have a extended arm of a AI guy, and they build that. So you need a domain expert to build something which can really be useful, right? I think these are the 2 things I will give advice.
Great advice, Ankit. Ankur, same question for you.
Firstly, start doing something, whether you are a startup aspirant, whether you are working or you're a student, in whichever space you are, I think the technology is actually pretty relevant, okay? And I think there'll be an initial stage of familiarity with the tools and discovering how you're going to use it in your work, but also what product you're building. There's that phase there where failing fast is very important. But I think there is just so much room for creativity in attacking the problems. I think in India, we went through a large phase of digitization where we basically did the same thing more efficiently, till we reached a point where like, no, actually I can do this very differently, and I can actually reimagine what the consumer needs. And I think in GenAI, that pace, the time to get creative will be much faster. So keep either invoke that creativity in you, or find those people to be part of your teams, whether you're doing a student project or you're doing a open source project, or you're doing something commercially, who will bring that creative lens, right? The one piece I do want to say is we'll go through a lot of churn before the best sort of archetypes of successful venture models emerge, okay? It has two implications. One is, if you're really inspired by this space, stay with it. Your first idea may not be the idea that takes off, and it's okay. But as long as you are learning from that experience. So failure can come at the level of this build of my code didn't work. It could come at the level of this idea of my business did not work. And of course, you then get better at shaping the business idea if that's where you're going. And my final thing is, we have a tremendous need for AI and technology in things beyond business, okay? When it comes to education for everyone, when it comes to healthcare for everyone, when it comes to access to information for those who can't read or write as well. And I really hope that many people across the country will start to build things that really solve those problems. So that's a lot, but there are so many of you. I'm sure many of these things will get done.
Thank you, Ankur. Thanks. Hari, what's your one piece of advice to the generative AI builder aspirants?
See, from the cybersecurity perspective, when I look at the startups, I would request the startups and the professional agencies to actually look in this way. 3 points I would highlight. First is actually to look at the data. As we know, it's GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So unless you have a quality, well-structured data, you cannot build literally anything out of it. So the most important thing is to have a very structured, systematic, quality data so that you could generate sense out of it. The second thing is that when you look from the cybersecurity perspective, I would urge the startups of the country to build systems and generate AI/ML models that would reduce the dependency of the country on foreign countries. Like, for example, we all are aware of the SOC, or the CM tools that are used to monitor the networks. We used to rely completely on the foreign populated threat intelligence. The United States had to report this IP as malicious, and then if my system is communicating with a malicious IP, I would cut off the system and launch an incident response. Now the system has changed. We have built indigenous CM tools and SOC models where we are able to run AI/ML models and generate our own threat intelligence. That has significantly reduced our dependence on the Western countries and the data and the malicious data being populated from the east or the west. And thirdly, please do not reinvent the wheel. If something is there, please use it, and use it to your advantage. And there is no point in building on something which already exists. A simple example, I would say, all the police agencies in this country used to have AI-driven tools to scrape intelligence out of the social media. Right? That used to be the biggest selling market maybe 10 years back. But now no police agencies develop any tools for social media monitoring, because the social media intermediaries like Facebook and Insta have built their own AI platforms. So what I need to do is to build a honeypot profile and wait for the data to come in. For example, I want to know anything about Bollywood. I start a profile by my name, Hari Shankar, and I say I am a Bollywood fan. Click, share, like few Bollywood videos. From the next day onwards, Facebook would ensure that the best everything on Bollywood reaches me through my Insta Reel, sponsored ad, and whatnot. So I just need to open a profile and sit. I don't need to develop a AI-led social media engineering tool. So let us look at this point of view that focus on the data, reduce our dependencies, and please don't reinvent the wheel. Thank you.
That's awesome. Very, very good practical advice from all three of you. Build fast. Look out for how you get to be successful. Don't just keep running. Focus on the data. Reuse. All very good advice. And I think with that, we're going to wrap up this session. Thank you to our eminent panelists for taking their time and sharing their thoughts with everybody. Thank you.
A huge round of applause for the panelists and to the session chair, Mr. Amit. We request the gentleman to stay back with us as we have the plaques as a token of appreciation to be presented. We request the moderator to do the honors to the panelists, and we can join hands. A huge round of applause for the panelists in the house, ladies and gentlemen. One more time, a huge round of applause for all those insights shared to that panel discussion.